Parker Schnabel, the face of Gold Rush, the youngest prodigy to ever mine millions from the harsh frozen land. He's the symbol of perseverance, turning mud into gold, leading a legendary mining empire. But today, he's no longer behind the wheel of his trusty excavator. He's behind closed doors facing a devastating verdict. The most shocking environmental lawsuit in mining history has crushed everything. Schnabel's gold empire has collapsed and the sentence is life in prison. What happened to this golden boy? Want to know the truth behind it all? Don't forget to comment 1 if you feel for Parker Schnabel or 0 if you have a different take. Hit like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss what happens next as we uncover every secret in this story. No parole, no more appeals. This is the same Parker who used his college fund to start a mining business, who mined over $13 million in gold by age 24, who turned mud into television gold and raked in $24 million in season 14 alone. But now his $16 million from this year is frozen. His claims on Dominion Creek are under investigation, and fans are left with one burning question. How did the most disciplined and hard-working young star in television history go from legend to inmate? Parker Schnabel is no stranger to pressure. He's been in the gold game since he was a teenager. By 24, he had earned over $13 million in gold from the ground. In season 14 alone, his team pulled in $24 million. And now, in season 15, with gold prices higher than ever, he should be sitting pretty. But instead, he's on the brink of financial disaster, a mishap, and now something far darker. Because somewhere between chasing ounces and chasing legacy, Parker made a decision that changed everything. And that's where the story veers straight into the courtroom. As he entered this season, Parker had one number on his mind: 10,000 ounces. That was the goal. At current gold prices, that's over $26 million. Massive. But to hit that target, he needed more than hard work. He needed big volume, big payroll, and no delays. And that's when he made a move that raised eyebrows and then alarms. He spent $2.5 million to buy 2 massive gold claims, Gold Run and Sulphur Creek. These weren't ordinary plots. They were historic, some of the richest sites in the entire Klondike, producing $1.5 billion in gold over the past century. But they were also risky. Stripped ground, unstable terrain, unknown liabilities. Parker didn't flinch. He wanted a shot at greatness, and he was willing to bet everything. To work the new claims, Parker needed to move his biggest wash plant, Bob, from Ken and Stewart's claim to Sulphur Creek. It was a 25-mile trek, the longest he'd ever attempted. He gave his crew just 10 hours to pull it off. Not just tight, insane. But they did it just barely. Mechanics scrambled to fix broken parts. Tyson Lee pushed the logistics, and finally Bob was up and running again. For a moment, things looked good, really good. In just 4 days, Bob pulled in 290.05 ounces, worth $766,000. Add another 276.01 ounces from Roxon at the elbow cut, and Parker's team crossed the 6,000 mark, $16 million in the books. And just like that, the gamble seemed smart. But behind the scenes, the clock was ticking. The deeper they dug at Dominion Creek and Bridge Cut, the more problems surfaced. Big Red, Parker's wash plant, shut down after 12 seasons and over $53 million in gold. Tension bars snapped, halting the entire operation. That plant had delivered 304,300 ounces over the years, and now it was gone. With only Bob and Roxon running, Parker's margin for error vanished. He needed everything to go right, but it didn't. What you didn't see on TV was the legal trouble brewing. In his rush to expand his claims and mine every ounce before winter, Parker made deals. Fast deals. He bought adjacent claims through a private contract that skipped environmental assessments. And as soon as his crew broke ground at Sulphur Creek, questions arose. Questions about permits, about disturbing a protected waterway, about old fuel drums buried on the land. Questions with no clear answers. Maybe you missed the early signs. A delayed inspection, a quiet visit from government officials, but the red flags were there. As Parker pushed harder, running operations 24/7, hauling thousands of yards of gravel through protected areas. Those red flags turned into subpoenas. Then came the real bombshell. Federal charges were filed accusing Parker of deliberate environmental violations. Not small infractions, but big ones. Illegal dredging, disrupting federally protected streams, negligence in waste handling, all tied to that $2.5 million land deal. And as prosecutors dug deeper, they found more. Missing documents, overridden permits, and worst of all, falsified inspection reports signed by subcontractors under Parker's direction. Suddenly, the show wasn't about ounces anymore, it was about evidence. Prosecutors argued that Parker knowingly pushed his operation beyond legal limits to hit his 10,000-ounce goal. They said he cut corners, ignored warnings, and endangered the environment and public safety. At trial, the numbers condemned him: 68 documented violations, over $3.1 million in unauthorized site alterations, contaminated soil around equipment areas, and over 8,000 gallons of unaccounted hydraulic fluid. Parker's defense team tried to pull the emergency brake. They argued it was all a mistake, that subcontractors dropped the ball, that missing permits were just paperwork delays, that there was no intent to break the law. But when emails were presented in court, things got messy. An email thread from early in the season showed Parker pushing for relentless production and telling his team to ignore agency interference. That message didn't just raise eyebrows. It kept resurfacing, and each time the courtroom grew quieter. Then the case shifted again. A former crew member who left mid-season stepped forward, claiming Parker knew exactly what he was doing, that he had been warned multiple times about incomplete paperwork and potential violations but kept going anyway. Suddenly, this wasn't a debate about who was responsible. It was a full spotlight on a leader under pressure, doing whatever it took to hit his 10,000-ounce goal. The consequences were devastating. Charges piled up like pay dirt, environmental misconduct, site damage, falsified inspection reports, reckless excavation on federal land. Prosecutors called it not a mistake, but a pattern, a deliberate disregard for regulations. And when they added obstruction to the list, things went from serious to career-ending. The court didn't hold back. It ruled that Parker's actions reached the highest level of environmental harm, triggering sentencing guidelines that stunned everyone watching. But here's the surprising truth. The verdict didn't tell the whole story. No one used the word prison publicly. No dramatic perp walk footage. No televised walk of shame. Instead, Parker vanished from the spotlight. Rumors spread quietly. Some said he was negotiating restitution. Others claimed he was in protective custody. But no one had answers. That silence spoke louder than anything. This is Parker Schnabel, the golden boy of Discovery Channel. The kid who started mining as a teenager, who mined over $13 million in gold by 24, who led 8 spin-off shows including Gold Rush and Parker's Trail, who made $24 million in season 14 alone, and now nothing, not even a word. The strange part is Parker was never flashy. He didn't live like a celebrity. He didn't own mansions or fancy cars. In fact, at the height of his success, he admitted to crashing on a friend's couch in LA. He didn't spend on status symbols, instead he spent on memories. Trips with his dad, hunting weekends with his crew, World Series tickets, and Vegas getaways. It was never about the money. It was about loyalty and experience. That mindset came from Parker's roots. His great-grandfather carved out a life in the Alaskan wilderness. His grandmother joined him in 1937. His dad still wakes up at 4:30 a.m. to work. Parker grew up around people who didn't quit, who worked through pain, who kept going no matter how brutal the conditions. That's what shaped him, and it's what makes his downfall so painful to watch. He once spent an entire summer working alongside his grandfather, eating dinner together every night, listening to stories spanning generations. That memory, one he said he wanted to preserve, meant more to him than any gold bar. Parker always knew money would fade. Legacy was what mattered. And now that legacy is under threat. Season 15 was supposed to be his comeback, his breakout year, the season he'd hit 10,000 ounces and crush the competition. Instead, it's the season people call cursed. Equipment failures, relentless legal nightmares, everything turned against him. And while Parker tried to stay focused, working harder, faster, smarter, it still wasn't enough. Parker Schnabel's legacy is teetering on the edge in a drama-filled season 15. From hopes of a 10,000-ounce breakthrough to legal nightmares and equipment failures, can he overcome it? Drop a comment and hit like to uncover what happens next. The pressure caught up and something snapped. No one knows what happens next. The $16 million he earned this season is tied up in legal reviews. Claims are on hold. The crew is scattered, some staying silent, others trying to hold things together. But without Parker at the center, it all feels different. Dominion Creek was the biggest bet Parker ever made. He didn't just lease the land like before, he bought it outright. That meant no monthly fees, no royalties, but it also meant all the risk was his. He signed that check. $15 million upfront, one lump sum, non-refundable. And that was just the start. Because the gold at Dominion isn't on the surface. It's buried over 40 feet deep. Getting to it costs millions more for equipment, fuel, labor, and time. By the numbers, it looks like a genius move. Dominion is estimated to hold 80,000 ounces of gold. At $2,000 an ounce, that's $160 million in the ground. Parker doesn't just see it as a mine. He sees it as the future. If he can pull 10,000 ounces a year for 6 seasons, he'll hit his goal. But here's the catch. He's got just 6 years before his permits and water licenses expire. If regulators don't renew them, anything left in the ground is a total loss. So Parker did what Parker does. He went all in. His crew started moving millions of yards of dirt, 25 million bank yards over the mining period, equating to over 4 million yards per season. That kind of workload doesn't just exhaust, it crushes. Equipment breaks, crews tire, schedules slip. The pressure doesn't just fall on one person, it hits everyone. Tyson Lee, Mitch Blaschke, the entire crew, they feel it every week. Because this isn't a lease deal. There's no safety net. Every delay burns cash. Every ounce they don't recover is a dollar Parker won't get back. For Parker, failure isn't an option. Not after that scrutiny, not with that timeline, not when the entire operation hinges on him staying one step ahead. Rewind a bit. Parker didn't get here by playing it safe. From the moment he stepped into the spotlight in 2010 on Gold Rush, Alaska, he proved he was different. While other miners bought trucks and toys, Parker focused on the ground, strategy, and crew. By 24, he'd mined $13 million in gold. By season 14, his haul hit $24 million, and the show followed him across the Klondike, Oregon, Colorado, even Guyana. He was a workhorse, a planner, and above all, a fighter. But in season 15, something shifted. Dominion was a game changer, but so was the pressure. Parker admitted his real fear wasn't the cost. It was losing his crew, downsizing, cutting the people who'd been with him from the start. He'd rather lose money than lose them, and that's exactly why he chose to go big. Not shrink, not pivot, not salvage. He bought more land, expanded operations, and even signed a royalty deal with Metallic Minerals for exclusive rights to a 12-kilometer stretch of Australia Creek. That deal alone came with a $1 million annual commitment plus royalties. So he wasn't just managing Dominion, he had an entire site tied to Little Flake mining. That's the pace of scaling up, and it's why crew morale became so critical. Parker said it himself, he didn't want people around him who couldn't handle the heat. If someone couldn't keep up, they were out. No excuses, no second chances. With a long-term potential of $200 million on the line, the stakes were higher than ever. But things didn't go smoothly. Because the bigger the operation, the less room for error. Every wash plant breakdown, every weather delay, every ounce short of quota, it all added up. The tension started spilling into relationships. Parker didn't see much of Rick Ness that season, they barely crossed paths. In fact, Parker only met Rick face-to-face twice all summer. They had one big on-camera talk about a tough situation Rick was facing, but beyond that, they ran in separate lanes. Same with Tony Beets. Years ago, Parker and Tony butted heads over everything. Permits, ground, royalties. But this time, they kept their distance. A few friendly coffees between takes, nothing more. Because Parker didn't owe Tony anything anymore. He owned his ground, held his permits, didn't cut royalty checks. That meant fewer fights, but also fewer connections. That disconnect came at a cost. As the pressure from Dominion ramped up, There wasn't much outside support. Parker was locked in, head down, scrambling to keep up. At the same time, he was still pushing public commitments, closing deals, drilling programs, winning awards. He even won the 2022 Robert E. Leckie Award from the Yukon government for environmental stewardship, just 2 years before his operations faced legal scrutiny. That's how fast things can flip in mining. One season you're winning awards, the next you're under investigation. Off the clock, Parker was the same as ever, humble, nomadic, grounded. He didn't change his lifestyle despite his fame. He lived simply, avoided the spotlight, stayed focused on work and core values. He doesn't live in mansions or party on private jets. He crashes on couches, 1 week in LA, another in Mexico, sometimes the Bahamas. He kiteboards, snowboards, and spends winters on snowmobiles when they're not broken. He's not flashy, he just likes to move, to push. Maybe that's part of the problem. Because while everyone else was wondering how a 20-something could mine $13 million by 24, Parker was out there reinvesting, risking, doubling down. Not in some high-rise boardroom, but 40 feet underground at Dominion Creek, where one wrong move could bury an entire season. By 2024, estimates put Parker's earnings around $8 to $10 million. Either way, it's not what most expect from a guy who's been the star of Discovery Channel's top-rated franchise for over a decade. He doesn't wear watches that cost more than cars. He doesn't collect rare vehicles. He doesn't even own a house in most reports, except a modest one in Haines, Alaska. Set on private land by a quiet lake, 2,000 square feet, built in 2015. Metal roof, timber frame, not exactly Hollywood. At one point, rumors swirled that he'd bought a $950,000 mansion. Parker shut it down flat, saying he's homeless, that he'd rather sleep on friends' couches. For most, that would be unbelievable, but for Parker, it's true. This is the same guy who used his entire college fund to bet on himself, choosing pay dirt and permits over dorm rooms. Parker bet $17 million on Dominion Creek. It wasn't his first gamble, but it was the loudest, most public, and riskiest. That ground isn't easy gold. It's buried 40 feet deep in frozen earth. He needs to move 30 million yards of dirt in 6 years, over 5 million yards a year. Every year, relentlessly, not just on the machines, but on the people running them. Dominion isn't a small mine. It's a gold-hungry monster, and Parker's the only one willing to tame it. Even as gold prices hit record highs, he didn't slow down. He went all in, hiring a bigger crew, adding more equipment. He signed a royalty deal with Metallic Minerals to mine Australia Creek, paying upfront royalties and committing to $1 million in annual work. He's not just mining gold, he's building a gold empire. The work doesn't stop in the Yukon. He's gone global: Guyana, Papua New Guinea, Alaska, Australia, Brazil. From the Klondike to jungles, glaciers to rainforests. While other crews prep for winter, Parker's halfway across the globe filming Parker's Trail, chasing gold where few dare. He manages logistics in languages he doesn't speak, facing bugs, landslides, altitude sickness, anything standing between him and another payday. He once fell ill at 16,000 feet in the Andes. Altitude sickness floored him, but he kept going. Through it all, the cameras kept rolling: Gold Rush, Parker's Trail, streaming rights, merchandise deals, sponsorships, a $2,500 per episode salary. It adds up fast. Some reports say he clears over $4 million a year when you factor in mining profits, TV pay, and licensing. His film crew captures every moment, from triumphs to grueling challenges. The film crew earns $10,000 to $25,000 per episode. It's a machine, a money-making machine. But here's the surprising truth: even with millions, with all the shows, with the entire mining world watching, Parker never truly chased the money. He chased legacy, striving to live up to his grandfather's standards, to protect his crew, to prove someone from a quiet Alaskan town could take on the world's toughest industry and win. That's what drove him, not cash. That's why this moment hit harder than anyone expected. This isn't some celebrity caught in a scandal. This is Parker Schnabel, the kid who grew up in the mud, the guy who never quit, the man who built an empire with one excavator and a team of miners. Seeing it all grind to a halt, even temporarily, left fans, investors, and miners reeling. His $16 million from this season is frozen. His Dominion claims are under legal review. His royalty sites are silent. His future unclear. Everything is in limbo, and no one knows what comes next. While Discovery keeps airing season 15 episodes, everyone knows the elephant in the room. No one says it, but everyone feels it. The question looms, will Parker come back stronger than ever? Or does this chapter mark the end of a golden run? What do you think? Will Parker rise above or sink in this storm? Drop a comment with 1 if you believe he'll make a comeback, or 0 if you think this is the end. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next secrets in this story, because we've got even more shocking revelations waiting for you. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.